latest annual event connected with our sport is upon us, and we confidently expect it will prove even more successful than the previous ones. The sight of such an immense and fairly orderly procession, comprising the flower of youth and manhood of our metropolis, as well as not a few of our most energetic provincial men, mounted upon the mechanical steed of the day and gliding along in graceful silence, has been in past years one which once seen will never be forgotten. That was the editorial of the Cyclist of May 19th, 1880. It referred to the Hampton Court Meet, the annual parade of cycling clubs with members astride the high bicycle. No one now alive has seen one of those meets, but we know from the artist's impressions of the scenes that they were majestic spectacles. There is a dignity about the ordinary bicycle, so called to distinguish it from the safety bicycle, that is absent from the modern machine. It is lean and elegant, uncluttered and simple, demanding respect and concentration from anyone who rises onto the saddle and towers above most of the road users. The Southern Veteran Cycle Club in 1986 decided that they would emulate one of those great meets, and they organised the International Festival of 100 Ordinaries. Part of that festival was a century ride, which in fact is 100 miles in the day on a grand old ordinary. Now here we have one of our international riders, Nolan Bay. He's come from California especially to be in this event. He's no youngster, as you can see, and has only recently taken to the high bicycle. There's the organiser himself, John Pinkerton. The co-organiser as yet has not managed to get out of bed. Morning. How are you, Peter? Not all the riders are on ordinaries. Some rode on modern machines. And the young man with the red hat, in fact, is celebrating his 40th birthday by riding 100 miles on a curly Hetchy. There was just one that we weren't able to free up because we spent most of yesterday. The attendant there was Glyn Stockdale. Frank Turner, a very energetic and very well prepared rider. Always worried about where he's going.
It's like a motor rally, really. We've got 10 seconds.
Incidentally, the time was 5:15 a.m. This is a replica Dursley pedestal made in the 1980s in Copenhagen. And there you see final instructions before the off. No big parades, no bands. We were just going to be away to enjoy ourselves with a nice little 100-mile ride. There's a rare machine, a pneumatic tired ordinary. There were a few made after Dunlop had reinvented the pneumatic tyre, but they were so troublesome that they were soon abandoned, and the safety bicycle had overtaken them anyway. The gentleman with the large saddle had travelled something like 400 miles to be with us that day. That's Alex Brown from Edinburgh. And you see that not all the riders are gentlemen. There are two ladies there. One will be on an ordinary, one will be on a relatively modern safety bicycle. So all is now prepared for the onslaught on 100 miles. Quietly and carefully away they go. The route itself takes us through Catherine de Barnes, a quiet little country village just a few miles from the busy National Exhibition Centre where we had our base. On the first circuit of our 25-mile route, which was to be travelled 4 times, the group was led by John Pinkerton to ensure that at least they didn't get lost on the first route. Nolan Bay brings up the
ordinary cycles leaving the NEC.
No traffic, just the odd little dog barking to say hello, and the riders there anticipating what the next 12 to 14 hours will bring. Don't panic, folks, there's nothing wrong with your set. In fact, what you hear is the traffic noise of the M42, which we're going to ride over on this little bridge. Careful planning of the route meant that the riders had a traffic-free ride for the whole 25 miles.
Riders approaching the M42.
You can see by the length of the shadows it's still very early on in the day. Look at that, even the leader has to check his map to make sure he's going the right way. Not every one of these riders will cover the 100 miles. This is Barston, a delightful Warwickshire village. Still very early, no one about, just the odd bird song. People enjoying the beautiful sunshine. May the 25th. Alex Brown obviously enjoyed himself immensely. This isn't a race, it's intended to be an enjoyable ride, and here are two people that are really enjoying themselves. Dave Westwood on the Alpha Bantam and his wife Sue Thorne on a 48-inch Ordinary. She was one of the first women to ride a century in this country on an Ordinary since the turn of the century, in other words after 1900. We don't know if any women rode Ordinaries in their original period, but there certainly don't seem to be any records at the time. Following the group up towards Birchwell now, one of the few hills, and here we've got quite an unusual scene in this part of the country, a level crossing. Aptly named, the Railway Inn,
Birchwell.
It's a busy little crossing, this is. It's the main Birmingham-London Euston line, and even on a Saturday morning there's still plenty of trains that go through. As you can see from the trees, we didn't have perfect weather. There was quite a strong wind, but somehow it didn't seem to blow in our face. It always seemed to be either behind or at the side. You'll notice that on the downhill stretches, some of the riders put the legs over the handlebars and let the pedals do their own thing. It's a safety measure as much as anything, because if you do happen to hit anything in the way of an obstruction, you just shot over the handlebars and you should land on your feet. I've frequently coasted down hills like that, but I've never been thrown off, unfortunately. There they go, carefully across the railway lines. It doesn't take a lot to upset them.
The crossing at Birchwell.
One of the reasons for our ride was to raise money for sports aid, and most of the riders were sponsored in some way or another, and subsequently quite a large amount of money was raised. Hello, what's this? Red lights? Yes, someone's got to wait. There's the barriers down, and there's one of the Euston Expresses expected any minute now. Dave doesn't mind, he's giving a bit of a rest. Alex, who loves his bicycle, wants to get in as many miles as possible.
4 more riders at the crossing.
And here's the 39, an almost 40-year-old rider, celebrating his 40th birthday with his first ever 100-mile ride. Peter Soper's his name. He's riding a curly Hutchins. That's how you get up to
Just passing the Railway Inn.
And here it comes. Somewhere around about 1899.
Birchwell Church.
beautifully decorated with wood carving. It was the point of our halfway stop on the 25-mile circuit, and what an idyllic situation. Bluebells in the woods, and there it is, the well-known vehicle of sustenance from John and Val Elsden, two of our club members who've supported our long-distance events since the first one in 1978. As ever, the business is there, but they're out of the way. Val, in fact, is our president this year. Just a simple stop, beverage, packet of biscuits, health food bar, none of your nasty sticky Mars bars to increase the blood sugar. There's Frank with his map ready to go again, ever eager, ever ready.
Off they go. Meriden. Statue. Packing.
The serenity of Paddington Park, back to the end of the first circuit. And here we are back at the NEC with Val and John doing a wonderful job of providing, would you believe, breakfast after 25 miles. Muesli, tea and coffee, whatever the folks want to set themselves up for the rest of the day. So after the riders have been replenished, the machines need checking over as well. One of the lads needed a new tyre, and when you fit a new tyre, the joint is thicker than the rest, so you have to file it down. Unfortunately, he hadn't got his file with him, so he used a handy curbstone. There we are, swapping experiences. Bob Jones in the event t-shirt, Glyn Stockdale bending down, and there on the right was Nolan Bay. Nolan's always ready. He's like a little boy in a policeman's truncheon, always ready. If you say, Nolan, let's go, he's there. And there they go, setting off on the next leg of the 100-mile ride. Now, because Val and John have come from the T-stop halfway round, we need somebody else out there. The car with the tricycle on the top is the Eastmans. And they'll look after the halfway stop for the rest of the day. Glyn Stockdale just setting himself up. Les Bowman, quite an old singer, perhaps not the best machine for the event. It's an early one with solid bearings and a solid backbone. Tony Colgrave with a very nice, relatively light machine. And there's Peter Soper again. Now, as you can see on the second lap, pace is quickened. Become perhaps a little bit too eager too soon. I think that someone will regret it later on in the day. Pace really hotting up. Whether they were training for the 1 mile championship the following day, I'm not sure. This of course is Birkswell again, but no trains to impede their ride. Just maybe this time. Meriden again. Meriden of course is famous as far as cyclists are concerned because there we have the Cyclist Memorial which was put up by the CTC shortly after the Great War, and another plaque has been added for the Second World War. There's a memorial service there every year, and in fact it had taken place just a week before our event had. That's the point which is supposed to be the centre of interest, and there are the wreaths from the various clubs and local bureaus and CPC, just remembering fellow cyclists who died for 2 years. And here are the cyclists crossing for the first time the route, the main road on the same level. As I said earlier, the route had been carefully planned so that the cyclists didn't have to get involved with heavy traffic on the
crossing
same
the A45.
either over or under they went. Made a very nice ride. Lauren Hofstetter, an American by birth but lived in Edinburgh for quite some time. Young Alan Skevington, only 14, he's going to be a very successful rider in the future. And here we are at the far side of Packington Park. No deer, but oh dear, a dog. But he's not worrying the cyclists. Bob Jones, ever smiling. Lauren's caught up now and he's with the front runners. On the left of the picture there's a ford, but wisely the riders have chosen not to go through it because it's about 4 foot deep. And fortunately there's a nice little footbridge there. The main group is still together, but you can see they're having quite a ride of it. And there they go across the footbridge, very wisely dismounting to cross it. Of course, a pedal in the railings and they'd have been over the top and into the water. Footbridge up a dirt road, over the old railway bridge, under the A446 and then back into the NEC for yet another break. Simply there's nothing but eat and drink on this ride. Now you can see how difficult the machine is to ride uphill. Les having to really put some effort in. That heavy machine took its toll on him and he was only able to cover the 75 miles. But I'm sure he's going to be back for another race or more. He's not the sort of bloke to give up. And there's the traffic on the main road going over the top. And our riders have the pleasant little road underneath. And here we have the main group leading in towards the NEC. They're only a very short distance from the end of the first 50 miles and they'll be glad to get some refreshment. And it's going to be lunch this time. Roast beef and 2 vegetables and a sweet. And here we have the group that are going to do just a 25-mile ride. Not all on ordinaries, some on modern, relatively modern bikes. And there's Derek Roberts. He was the founder of our club way back in 55, 31 years ago, or 30 years ago, whichever way you count. And there's his wife Peggy. Don't forget that behind every great man there's even a greater woman. There she is. And here they go on their 25-mile circuit.
Next group off from the NEC.
She's going to have a good ride with that basket. I hope it's not full of groceries. One or two not quite sure whether they're going to start or not. Yes, they've decided to go. That's Bob Pound and Rod Save. And one or two spectators at last. That's one of our Dutch riders. He didn't do the 100, but he did the 25. And that's a facile, French meaning easy. Having ridden one of those things, I wouldn't agree with it. Back to Berkswell again. Some of the shorter distance riders coming in to get some refreshment. That's Tony Killett, a very nice machine, complete with hub lamp. Let's hope he's not going to be out that late that he needs his hub lamp. Beautiful green at Berkswell. And there's the tea master, whether he's been for more supplies or just a little ride round to enjoy himself on the club's Rudge racing tricycle. Melanie Colgrave, followed by Jim Baker. Back into Packington. Interesting little chapel there. Mal Lawton, not a distance rider on an ordinary, but put him on a normal bike and he'll see you off any day of the week.
So many more.
But whatever he's on, he enjoys his bike riding. There they are in Packington Park.
Packington.
See, he's not worried about riding his bike, he's just enjoying the scenery, and what beautiful scenery it was as well. Here they come to the crossing of the bridge. And back at the NEC. This is at the end of 75 miles, and one or two of the folks are having minor problems. That wind has been persistent all day, and there's more hot food for the riders to ensure that they're in good condition for that last vital 25 miles.
Final riders in the 100 on their last lap.
And there they go, 24 miles to do. They've just done the mile circuit within the NEC, and away they go out for the last time. The NEC, of course, is very close to Birmingham International Airport, so we were right in the midst of traffic of the 1980s. Motorways, airports, still enjoy the wonderful pleasure of riding in Grand Old Ordinary. This is Tony Colgrove again. He's really looking forward to the end of that ride. Steadily pegging away all day, now he's just gently putting the pressure on. He's off on his own. Bit of a loner, Tony. He enjoys other people's company, but I think he enjoys his own as much as anything. Nolan Bay and Bob Jones on the brilliantly painted yellow Ordinary. Some of the riders after their single circuit, the 25-mile circuit. And here's John Pinkerton talking to one of the international riders, Bernard Barbo. He'd come all the way from Switzerland to have a look at our event and take part in it.
Oh, you've had enough, have you? Alan, has your dad got you the white pedal rubbers? C'est son fils.
Oh,
Right? Jolly, hein? Ouais, il a un galop vert. Right? Good.
Bernard Barbo is endeavouring to organise an international group of veteran cycle owners. And there's a rare machine. The Huckleberry Ideal. The idea was that if you hit anything, it would tip forward onto the other little wheel and then tip you back again. Man in the cap, Derek Pratt from Switzerland. And there's the signs showing where they'd been and where they were coming from. Here are some of the first riders coming in for the end of the century. Lauren Hofstetler, Nolan Bay,
Finishing the 100.
Chris Staines on the repro Dursley Pedersen, John Skevington in the dark top, and Bob Jones in the event t-shirt.
I can't tell you what's coming in.
Okay, Pinky, great pleasure.
Wonderful job.
Each rider had a stainless steel lapel badge with the event logo on. After a clean-up and a nice hot bath, the riders were entertained to a jazz buffet. Jazz buffet.
Not necessarily be the same. Pinky has been honoured me to say a few words, and as you probably noticed, he's stressing his family business. I've said quite a few words in the past. I think most of you know all that I have to say. I should like to hear a few words from the only other family member left, my brother John.
Well done.
I'm not really very fond of using these things, and I'm sure you can all hear me. The fact is that I'm a bit of a fraud. That's why you haven't seen me for very many occasions. I mean, I used to do quite a lot in the sense that I used to be around quite often, but I sort of submerged, disappeared for years doing other things. But of course, I'm always very interested in how the Southern is doing, and I do occasionally manage to get along to something and say hello to people and say how wonderfully everybody else is working to keep the club going, and how pleased I am to see that what Derek and I were in at the beginning of has made such enormous progress, because you're evidence of enormous progress. You realise that, don't you? Here you are with 1,000 members, and there we were with 6 sitting around discussing gravely whether we should get to 100. Of course we did, ultimately, and then we zoomed, and I don't know what the limit is, but presumably the 1,000 is not the limit. Well, it's, I think, a magnificent achievement, and it's due to Derek, Pinky, Bill Bush, etc., etc., all these other people who I couldn't list because there's too many, and they're really pretty wonderful, because what has been done really is a great achievement. It's an achievement in creating a club of 1,000 members, as you probably realise, but it's also an achievement, I think, because what we've done in this country is to produce an informed interest in something which was formerly not really thought of in any way except by individual enthusiasts. And for the first time, what the club has done is to give people a focus, give people a chance to see their interests reflected in an institution which has gone from strength to strength. And the thing which over and over again strikes me as being so pleasing is to see the way people like all these others I've mentioned, but there are a host of others who've done these things, can produce such splendid occasions, can give opportunities for people to enjoy themselves, to be instructed, to find out something which is worth doing, and to find an interest which is permanent, because obviously many of us have got this for life. So I'm just very pleased, and I thank Pinky very much to have had this opportunity to come, and thank all of you to give us the opportunity for having the club and making it so successful, and that's really it. Thank you.
Just sit down, folks. For those of you that have taken the time to look through the programmes that I've foisted on you once again, instead of the last time I've warned you. This year, in fact, is a very special year for many things. Halley's Comic's come and gone. The Festival of Ordinaries is right upon us. And in fact, there's another very important occasion taking place later on in this year. It's in August, I believe, Derek, isn't it? It's Derek's 70th birthday in August, and we've got a birthday card for him. Would you like to have a look at it?
determined that I should say something else wrong. I would point out that my pseudonym throughout the years has been the Indian rhinoceros with one horn. I've never had two horns. There's two horns. Still, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. What does it say? Oh, Dave Westwood and Sue Thorne. This is wonderful. Quite seriously, the pleasure that the progress of this club has given me and others is something that is difficult to quantify. To qualify it is simple. 31 years ago, we started something that has grown. And although there have been ups and downs and spats and screams here and there, certainly I, probably John, we've done lots of it back. We have sat back and we have thought, this is good. And it's going to get better. Thank you.
Yes, from all the club members of the second part in this weekend. Sit down, so don't drop it.
Thank you.
Another one on Rhino.
Yes. It's almost worth being 17.
Just got one other little
Happy
thing for you.
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Derek. Happy birthday to you.
Now that's got one horn.
Yes,
This or that.
you don't want anything more, do you? Yes.
We've got one other as well. I think it's only fair that we should honour the lady of the family as well. No bumping of the head, Peggy.
I will make one last speech. Without Peggy, none of this would have been possible. Without her support, and without her putting up with things, without her allowing the home to be turned into a there would not have been a summer.
It's a long hour's work. Usually first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Val.
We are the Southern Veterans Cycle Club, and not all of our events are pure cycling. In fact, we have many members who don't even own machines, but they do collect photographs and illustrations like this. And part of our activity for that weekend was to put on a display of interesting and historic machines, and this we did in one of the very large halls in the museum. Now, this is quite a unique machine. It's a Rover Rational Tandem. Yes, you weren't seeing double, there's another pair of legs at the back. It's a combination of the Grand Old Ordinary at the front and the more modern safety at the back. And here was the display of some of our machines that weren't necessarily ridden in the Century ride. Mostly ordinaries, but there are a few unusual machines that I'll make comments on. That's a Kangaroo. The idea was to have a smaller front wheel, so if you did happen to fall, the results weren't quite so disastrous. Machine with a nice hub lamp. The hub really was the only place to put a lamp. If you had it on the steering head, you wouldn't see anything at all. Without a doubt, this was the largest collection of ordinaries ever to be together this century, and we'd more or less achieved what we set out to do. There's the Facile, an indirect drive once again. That's a Sunbeam. The following year it would have been the centenary of the Sunbeam, 1887 to 1987. Number 145, the repro Mikael Petersen made in Denmark. And here's another smart ordinary. A casual bone shaker, and rather a novel stand for an ordinary, number 58. A better shot of the casual bone shaker. They were the machines that led up to the ordinary, or that the ordinary was developed out of. That's a quadrant tricycle with very unusual steering, made in Birmingham in Sheepcote Street. Another shot of the Facile. A cross-frame safety. Hillman, Herbert and Cooper made the first one of those in 1886. A child's machine. Perhaps not the right colour, but original. And the faithful carrier bike, sometimes called the poor relation of the cycle business. There's one of the milk race men come to marvel at the machines that people used to ride. A pneumatic tied ordinary, the only one there, one of the few that's still in rideable condition. A Bantam, a child's ordinary. Frank Turner making sure he's going to take the right machine. That's Phil Saunders in the yellow, he was the co-organiser of the event. And there we have the Rover Rational Tandem again. It was a good idea, but it didn't work out very well because the two riders are pedalling at a different rate and it upsets the balance of the machine.
Stand by to change up. And we're off with John Ivins on the reproduction of the horse. Go, gentlemen, please.
This part of the event was to portray to the spectators how the bicycle had developed from the hobby horse which has just gone through to the three bone shakers, and then here we have the transitional machine, which was a 48-inch front wheel bone shaker, very heavy, very awkward to ride and quite difficult. And then on the left of the picture we've got Kizo Kilbashi from Japan, and there's Sasha Saunders, who was really responsible for this thing starting off. There's Nolan Bay, once again, recovered, not recovered, he didn't ruffle his feathers at all. the century ride. And then the rest of the riders go off in pairs, and we had over 100 riders on ordinaries who succeeded in what we set out to do. Nick Clayton and his son. John Malseed in the period costume. A rare sight. Pneumatic tyre, tired ordinary. Some of the older machines.
Just about.
Alex Brown.
Look at that little girl, look at this.
Father and daughter. Little reproduction ordinary, that's funny. Alan Skevington, Tony Phillip. Bob French on a very nice 54 or 55
So if you just get the crew moving now, get them along on the road a
There's
little
Sash's
bit
mother,
quicker.
number 50.
We're just
That's not her
waiting
age,
for the
that's
start
just
line.
positioning the
This
programme.
is the official start line for the 1986
Kangaroo,
milk race.
from the Passy
Don't
family.
mean to rush you along, gentlemen, but we are on a little bit of pressure time. Why don't you turn into a race?
Dave Manders. Frank Turner, still looking for his man. Club secretary in the cap, Andrew Heaps. Everybody getting a bit eager to get on. A singer extraordinary, number 98. Another lady rider, Lena Clark. Yeah, she played it. Well done, Lena. Tony Deadman. Only just learned to ride, and he rode the Century the day before.
Get another register, the guys all around, choose an official attempt. Get all these fantastic cycling machines registered in this superb paleoscopic rip as was earlier mentioned.
Coming up to the last few of the ordinaries. And there's an American Star, small wheel at the front and a big wheel at the back. He's one of the first repro machines. That's a Singer extraordinary. That's a Cooper's ordinary made in the 1960s. There's a rideable replica from America.
And the rally teams at the back trying to get past.
And then here are some of the other machines, the Bantams. They were the machines that were produced in the 1890s to try and stave off the onslaught of the safety bicycle, but there was no turning back to time. The ordinary was outmoded and dead. But here we are in May 1986, proving that if you really tried, you could get 100 ordinaries together. And there's number 100, Phil Saunders, co-organised with the event. No too shaky starts, obviously. The riders are not terribly skilled in riding, but at least they've turned up. That machine there had only just been finished being restored. Race of Bantams, 3 Bantams, 4 Bantams, 5 Bantams. And a lovely sight there, a sociable. Sociable because the 2 riders could chat as they rode along. Wally and Maisie Stimson. Wally's the club's vice president. An Alpha Bantam. Quadrant tricycle. And there, number 48 was the representative of one of the sponsoring companies. Another quadrant tricycle. Very delightful machine. And a wonderful sociable. Chris Staines on his repro Bursley.
Oh, we should have.
Some Rovers. Harding's tricycle. And there he is, at the back, the birthday boy.
I haven't got one.
And that was it. Festival of 100 Ordinaries, all over.
Signing on for the mile race in EC. 25th of May. One of the American riders signing on. Going down. Start line of the mile race.
The moment you've all been waiting for, the start of the Grand Old Ordinary National Championship in its 76th year. I'm pleased to say that we're sponsored by Yvonne Moe this year. Let me explain the situation. We'll be going from this start area where you are now and riding at a leisurely pace around the circuit. Okay? When we come back to this start line, providing we're in a decent bunch and nobody's taken 10 yards off the front, Derek Roberts, founder member of the Southern Veteran Cycle Club, will fire the starting pistol. If perchance the starting pistol doesn't go, he'll shout go. However, if somebody has tried to steal a march, he'll fire the gun twice and we'll have to go through the whole bloody thing again. Stop. Right, are you all ready? Now, okay, we're going to be preceded by the publicity manager's vehicle. Okay. Yeah. There is one other thing. Can you just make sure you clear the road, please? Yeah. There is one other thing, riders. Some of the barriers regretfully have blown down. The police have done everything they can to stop it, so please be careful. It is a race, we're going to have some fun, but we don't want any accidents. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you here on behalf of Okay, they're going to make a rolling start. See how they mount up. Little back step on the backbone. Hop, skipping and jumping into the saddle as elegantly as you like. Tony Lane at the back there, 60-inch machine, 65-foot man. And they're off, just on a rolling start, leisurely pace, just so that they find their way. Pretty hot rider, really.
Leading car for the Ordinaries. They're now coming for the second lap.
taking it slowly, nice and gently, ready for the starter's pistol. Front line, Tony Pickering, Doug Pinkerton, John Pinkerton, Bob French, Nick Bromwich. Nice and slowly. There's about 26 riders that are on. And now the wind sweeps round to behind him, so I'd expect that back straight there to be quite fast. Little group at the front there, followed by the gentleman at the back. The boy racers at the front. They've broken for the finish. Come on, cheer them on, cheer them on. Who's in the lead there? Come on, it's Dougie. Nick Bromwich. Come on.
Put your hand up, please. Nick Bromwich, the winner. Presenting in the cup for the mile race.
We'd like to welcome David Smith from Seligman, who distributes Yvonne Mao wines. He's going to present the trophies today and what looks like 5 gallons of red wine in an enormous bottle. Handsome.
It's a Jerry Bowen.
Welcome, David. It's a Jerry Bowen, I beg your pardon, I stand corrected.
Oh, this one's leaking.
David Smith presenting the wine.
On behalf of Seligman and Company in Yvonne Mao, I'd like to congratulate the winner, Nick Bromwich. Before the race started, I actually got onto one of these cycles, and I can tell you, I am not at all envious of going around this course. We are delighted to be associated with this event. The motif of Yvonne Mao is in fact the grandfather of the peasant owner, and he's actually taken from an old photograph where he was actually riding a So now what I'd like to do is to present the prize to the winner, if we can find Nick.
Nick, turn around, face us.
Turn the label round this way.
I tell you what, he'll never ride again if he drinks all that.
Big smile then, come on.
The trophy now. Look at that trophy. I want it, I want it, I want it. But I'm too fat. 1910, I beg you, pardon, rather than 1916. 76 years. Well done. Did a little high wheeler on the top. A beautiful picture. Well done. Forward a bit. Lick your lips. Yeah. How about a round of applause for the runner-up, Dougie Pickett. Winner for the last 5 years. I tell you what, he's going to be back next year with a vengeance. Now, David, would you like to... And Paul Smith, third place. Sorry, of course. Round of applause, go on, well done. Paul, I think he's going to be a hard rider next year. He's been practicing very hard for his O-level. Yellow man. Medals as well. And next we have the Veterans Tanker. This is the Veterans Tanker's down there. Somebody just hold it up. It's a beautiful thing, it really is. Just show it round, David. It's the most exquisite thing.
Let me show you some of the little ride for it.
What was it, 1972. Presented by Southcott.
Hold still, John. Hold still. Put your hand on it.
Well done, thank you.